Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Vietnam. Hello, Eliana. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Alma, and good afternoon to all of our viewers. I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian from EBC Vietnam Bureau, giving you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. Amid the clamor from the private sector to further ease quarantine restrictions, in Manila, the government announced the earlier de-escalation of the alert level in the region to alert level 2 starting today.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government said it may soon start going after local government units that failed to meet their daily vaccination targets.
And a Chicago woman who spent 7 years jailed in Bali for helping kill her mother at a luxury hotel was arrested Wednesday upon her return from Indonesia.
The Church of Christ, or Iglesia ni Cristo, has extended relief to OFWs in
of the Church of Christ. Around 300.
And now, amid the clamor from the private sector to further ease quarantine restrictions in Metro Manila, the government announced the earlier de-escalation of the alert level in the region to alert level 2 starting today. Now, according to a Business Mirror report, Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said,
gusto akong ikulong ng mga
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said late Thursday that the IATF has decided to cut short the duration of the extended implementation of Alert Level 3 in the National Capital Region, or NCR, which was supposed to last from November 1 to the 14th. Under IATF amended guidelines on the implementation of Alert Level system for COVID-19 response, regulated establishments under Alert Level 2 will now be allowed to operate with 50% venue capacity, and this could be further increased if the concerned establishments has a safety seal certification. Among the regulated establishments are indoor tourist attractions, indoor entertainment venues with live performers such as karaoke, bars, clubs, concert halls, theaters and cinema, amusement parks and theme parks, indoor recreational activities, indoor limited face-to-face or in-person classes, examinations and other educational related activities, and in-person religious gatherings, social events, indoor dine-in service, all contact sports, whether indoor or outdoor, indoor sports, and personal care establishments.
Overseas tourists pour into the holiday island of Phuket quarantine-free as Thailand kickstarted its tourism industry after 18 months of COVID curbs. Thai authorities have given the green light to vaccinated tourists from over 60 low-risk countries to skip hotel quarantine. Let's watch this.
We'll be spending time obviously playing golf and just sort of spending time getting our visas and everything else, relaxing, eating down the beach, and just generally having a good time as much as we can. We just come out of a cold Europe, so we're looking forward to some warm.
I'm going to train with my friends at the Tiger Muay Thai in Phuket. So Thai boxing, just Thai boxing.
Thailand hopes to capitalize on travelers escaping the winter blues in December, with several European countries, the United States and China on the approved list. Tourism accounts for nearly a fifth of the economy, and the impact of the pandemic has reverberated across sectors, from restaurants to transportation. But authorities expect 10 to 15 million visitors to return next year, with revenues forecast to surpass $30 billion. Thailand is still registering about 10,000 COVID infections a day, while only about 40% of the population have received 2 vaccine doses.
In Malaysia, rights groups in Kuala Lumpur submitted a memorandum to Parliament in protest at the impending execution for drug trafficking of a Malaysian man with intellectual disabilities in Singapore. Take a look.
This is not fair for the family. We haven't seen them for more than 2 years, and we receive a news that they are starting the execution. This is really not fair, and the agony is there. We won't be able to forget it forever in our life, especially during this Deepawali.
A man who is not fit to be executed at any standard of the international law at all. Singapore is committing a grave crime against humanity if it proceeds with this execution. So we are here to call on the Malaysian government to do what it can, whatever is within its powers, to put pressure on the Singapore government to halt this execution.
So we implore the Malaysian government to do what they can, to talk to their diplomatic counterpart, to talk to the Singapore government, to ask them to commute the sentence to life imprisonment.
Now, according to the Today online site, Nagetran, who is a Malaysian, was convicted and given the death penalty in November 2010 for importing 42.72 grams of heroin a year before. He had first appeared to be sentenced or resentenced under amendments to the Misuse of Drugs Act that were passed in 2012. The amendments also allow a court to sentence a drug offender to life imprisonment instead of death if he was merely a courier, on the condition that the public prosecutor issues the offender a certificate of substantive assistance for helping the Central Narcotics Bureau disrupt drug trafficking activities. Nagetran then lodged a second appeal for a judicial review into the public prosecutor's decision not to issue him a certificate of substantive assistance. The High Court dismissed both applications, and in 2019, the Court of Appeal dismissed both of Nagetran's appeals against the High Court's decision. But the MHA said his petition to the President for clemency was unsuccessful.
UN rights experts on Tuesday condemned as a shameful nadir Cambodia's sentencing of an autistic teenager to 8 months in prison for sending telegram messages that were deemed insulting to the government. The son of an opposition figure, 16-year-old Kak Sovanchai, was arrested in late June after posting messages on a private Telegram group and has been detained for more than 4 months. Phnom Penh Municipal Court on Monday sentenced him to 8 months in prison under incitement charges and for insulting public officials. They said the conviction of a minor with an autism spectrum disorder is a shameful nadir in the authorities' continuing campaign of intimidation and violence against civil society and opposition activists and affiliates. The boy's father, Kak Kompea, is a former member of the now dissolved opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party and has been in jail since June last year.
In other news, a Chicago woman who spent 7 years jailed in Bali for helping kill her mother at a luxury hostel was arrested Wednesday upon her return from Indonesia, according to the Justice Department. Heather Mack, 26, was taken into custody when she arrived at Chicago's O'Hare Airport after being freed early on good behavior from a Bali prison where she had been sentenced to 10 years for the 2014 murder. She was convicted in 2015 for working with her boyfriend to kill her mother while they were on vacation on the Indonesian island and then stuffing the body into a suitcase that they left in a taxi. Deported from Indonesia, she has been indicted for the same crime in U.S. court on charges of criminal or of conspiracy to kill in a foreign country, conspiracy to commit foreign murder of a U.S. national, and obstruction, according to the Justice Department. Mack was a pregnant teenager when she, her boyfriend, and a U.S.-based cousin allegedly conspired to kill her Chicago socialite mother, Sheila Von Wies Mack, while on vacation in Bali. The boyfriend, Tommy Schaefer, beat the 62-year-old victim to death with a fruit bowl during an argument at the five-star St. Regis Hotel in the Nusa Dua resort town. According to interviews she gave, Mack had regularly fought with her mother, and the two were in a court battle over a $1.6 million inheritance. Schaefer confessed to the killing during his trial, but claimed he was defending himself during an argument with Bonvis Mack, who was unhappy that her daughter was pregnant. During the attack, Mack hid in a bathroom, but later helped Schaefer stuff the body into a suitcase, the trial heard. She was sentenced by an Indonesian court to 10 years in prison, where she gave birth to a daughter. Schaefer, the father of the child, was given an 18-year sentence. Mack's cousin, Ryan Bibbs, pleaded guilty in December 2016 in federal court in Chicago to giving her advice on how to kill Von Vis Mack, according to the Justice Department. It wasn't clear if Mack, who is now fluent in Indonesian and Balinese, if returned to the United States with her daughter. Mack's lawyer had told AFP the young woman didn't want her daughter to be deported and hounded by the U.S. media, but the lawyer also said on Tuesday before Mack left Bali that she said she was happy to start a new life in the U.S. with a child.
President Rodrigo R. Duterte on Thursday lambasted anew the International Criminal Court, or ICC, for authorizing a full inquiry on his administration's drug war, stressing that the court does not have jurisdiction over Philippine affairs. Let's take a look.
Itong ICC, gusto akong ikulong ng mga nila. Ako, kung may kasalanan, kung talagang may kasalanan, at tapos sabihin mo sa akin, ito ang nagawa mo masama, ay abogado ako, tignan natin. And if I am prosecuted, you prosecute me in a Philippine court with a Filipino judge. And governed by the rules of court on evidence. Bakit mo ako dalhin sa ibang lugar to face itong mga puti, tapos husgaan ako? Ako, sigurado ako, wala silang jurisdiction sa akin. There is one thing, gusto talaga ninyo malaman, gawa ganito. The law says, the Constitution says that all laws, particularly penal laws, must be published in the official gazette or in a newspaper of wide circulation. But primarily sa official gazette. Dinala nila doon sa Congress for the ratification. Dapat binalik nila dito sa Executive Department. The Executive Department, kung ako, I will now order the publication of the law. Pero I would love to go to where that Hague court is without necessarily submitting to its jurisdiction. I would like to give a speech there. And worst comes to worst, kung talagang may trial, then my first witness will be Dilima. Siya man ang sige daldal. I'm not trying to pick a fight with any of you here. Yun ang
And the news continues here on Eagle News and ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
Go, Eagle. Hi, I'm Alex Calleja, isang podcaster, YouTuber, writer, director, at isang stand-up comedian for more than 12 years. Ang sarap maging komedyante sa Pilipinas, no? Dahil paborito ng mga Pinoy, pagsaluan ang mga nakakatawang eksena sa paligid. Pero dahil sa pandemic, ang kulitan, naging online na lang. Naranasan mo na ba to? Ginising ka ng nanay mo para tanungin lang kung anong oras ka gigisingin. Pero masaya talaga pag sabay-sabay tayong nagtatawanan sa mga videos na gaya nito. Eto pa. Eto pa. At ito pa. Kaya naman, heto na ang funniest Nakawall Videos. Ang natatanging show na bubusugin ang buong sambenan sa katatawanan. Ito ang bagong tambayan ng buong pamilya at barkada. Mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes nyo kami makakasama tuwing 4:30 p.m. Dito lang sa Net25. Dito, mapapanood natin ang best comedy videos na hinanap pa namin sa kasuluk-sulukan ng internet. So ano pang hinihintay nyo? Join na sa pinakabago at pinakamasayang afternoon habit ng tawanan at kulitan, ang funniest Nakawall Videos!
Welcome back. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, officials will be conducting a series of discussions with its counterparts from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the latter's commitment to pay the more than 4 billion pesos worth of salaries and benefits of some 9,000 displaced workers, overseas Filipino workers, according to the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA Chief Hans Leo Kakdak. Let's listen in.
Well, kung maalala ninyo, Secmart, ito yung mga na-stranded noon. Sila ay nawalan ng trabaho. Nagsara yung dalawang buhalang construction company nila sa Saudi. May mga higit kumulang mga 12,000 at nung panahon na yon ay ng Saudi and Philippine governments sa pinangungunan ng Secretary Bell yun noong mga panahon na yun. Kung naalala ninyo ay maraming ang sahing pauwi ang dinibre by no less than ng hari ng sayang higit kumula sa gitna ng 12,000 hanggang 15,000 noong 2016-2017. At nabigyan sila ng tulong, ayuda ng OWA na halos pumapalo na ng 1 billion pesos in terms of livelihood, financial assistance, at meron pang mga cash outs. So, ang nangyari ay hindi pa rin sila nabayaran ng end service benefits. But si Secretary Bell, batay nga sa anunsyo niya noong linggo, nagkaroon ng pagpupulong last week sa Dubai between Secretary and yung Saudi Labor Minister. Yun nga, nagkaroon na ng pag-asa dahil sabi ng Saudi Labor Minister ay pupunta siya sa mabibigyan na ng nakabinbin na mga sahod at benefits ng mga OFW sa at least mga dalawang dampuhalang construction companies na nagsara at hindi ng mga benepisyo ng mga OFWs. Well, yun yung kaparaanan ay kailangan pa nating malaman ng husto sa Saudi side kung ano magiging kaparaanan ng distribution. At ito nga yung mamarapatin lang ay magkakaroon pa ng mga pagpupulong. Mayroong pang napag-usapan na meetings patungkol dito. Mabilinaw itong magandang balita na ito.
Brunei will introduce the use of vaccine passports that restrict unvaccinated individuals from accessing public places, the health minister said during a press briefing on Wednesday. Only vaccinated residents will be able to enter their workplaces restaurants, retail stores, and other public facilities once the country reopens its economy, said YB Dato Seri Setia Dr. H.J. Mod Isham H.J. Jafar. As part of its transition plan to living with endemic COVID-19, Brunei is expected to gradually lift its 12-week movement curbs when 70% of the population has completed their two-dose regimen. A digital vaccine pass will be issued to fully jabbed residents on the Brew Health mobile app, while those without Brew Health must bring along their yellow-colored vaccination certificate before gaining entry to public venues.
Back here in the country, according to Undersecretary for Policy Planning and International Affairs, Jonas R. Leones, the Dolomite Beach, the closure, Dolomite Beach in Manila will remain off limits to people for scheduled rehabilitation work. The closure will allow the agency to finish pending rehabilitation works. Again, let's listen in. All right.
Uunahin po natin ang pagsasaayos ng mga natitirang mga gawain sa Baywalk. Kinakailangan po talaga na walang tao doon dahil may mga materyales at may mga equipment po na nadadaan doon sa lugar ng Dolomite area.
We'll do our best to finish this within the year before the holiday season para ika nga'y mapakinabangan na ng Juan de la Cruz. Yan pong ating Dolomite Beach, no? Again, tingnan natin kung ano yung magiging situation, no? Dahil fragile yung situation natin ngayon with this pandemic.
On October 16, the Manila Baywalk Dolomite Beach reopened to the public but was closed again after 2 weeks amid overcrowding concerns. The Dolomite Beach comprises Phase 1 of the Beach Nourishment Project the DENR is undertaking as part of Manila-based rehabilitation. The DENR-led rehabilitation aims to make Manila-based water fit again for contact recreational activities. Meanwhile, Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Ilan Plus, said Wednesday that Israel is accepting Filipino and other foreign tourists as long as they are fully vaccinated and their second dose had been administered within the last 6 months. Now, tourists may travel to Israel individually or as a group, but are advised to check first the specific entry guidelines and requirements before booking their flight and tour packages. The envoy also said travelers will have to present a negative reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR test result taken 72 hours prior to departure and take another swab upon arrival at the airport. After the test, the tourist will undergo mandatory quarantine until the result is out. Plus noted that Israel is only allowing foreigners who had been vaccinated with a jab recognized by the World Health Organization, such as Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Sinovac, and Sinopharm.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, said it may soon start going after local government units which failed to meet their daily vaccination targets. Interior spokesperson Jonathan Malaya said they will be reviewing the performance of LGUs which were given additional supplies of COVID-19 jabs since last month. Let's take a look.
Sa amin naman po sa DILG ay meron na po kaming ilang LGU na tinitingnan, no? Pero hindi naman po kasi natin yan masasabi na may kapabayaan kaagad dahil sa hanggang ngayon po kasi ay meron pa pong marami sa ating mga kababayan ay may vaccine hesitancy. Kung wala man pong vaccine hesitancy ay namimili ng bakuna. So we are assessing daily ang performance ng mga LGUs at makakaasa po ang ating mga kababayan na kung sakaling may makita po kaming kapabayaan on the part of local government units ay sisiguraduhin po namin na mananagot po sila.
Opo. Yusek, kaugnay naman po sa vaccine wastage. Kumusta na po ba yung investigasyon ng DILG sa nangyaring sunog kamakailan sa Zamboanga del Sur Provincial Health Office kung saan kasama pong nasira ang nasa higit 100,000 doses na bakuna?
Opo, meron na pong 30% ng mga LGUs na hindi nagsusumite ng kanilang updated records every day. Dahil base po doon sa ating pulisiya sa National Vaccine Operation Center.
ASEAN in Focus will be back after a short break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Welcome back. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, reported Thursday that the unemployment rate in September slightly increased to 8.9% from 8.1% in August. Labor force participation also declined to 6.3% from 63.6% in the same period. National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, said these numbers led to an employment loss of 642,000. Socioeconomic Planning Secretary and NEDA Director General Carl Kendrick Chua said, quote, "These results were expected as many parts of the country remained under stringent and blanket quarantine for most of the survey period. In particular, the Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine, or MECQ, was extended in the National Capital Region to up to September 15. Aside from the extended MECQ in September, weather disturbances, particularly Typhoon Jolina, affected some 30,000 hectares of agricultural land in regions of Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol, Western Visayas, Central Visayas, and Eastern Visayas, contributed to the employment losses in the said month.
The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or POEA, has temporarily suspended the processing and deployment of healthcare workers, particularly nurses, as the annual deployment cap of 6,500 has been reached. The agency said healthcare workers who were already issued with their corresponding OECs, however, are allowed to depart for their overseas employment. The suspension shall take effect until a new resolution has been issued by the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF-EID. The POEA said HCWs, or healthcare workers that have their OECs, are not covered by the temporary suspension. During the onset of the coronavirus pandemic last year, the government has set a 5,000 annual deployment cap with newly hired healthcare workers for mission-critical skills. The ceiling was raised to 6,500 in June this year amid calls for the government to allow more healthcare workers to be deployed overseas. President Rodrigo Duterte is expected to attend New Zealand's hosting of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, Leaders Week on November 12. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made this announcement in a regular palace press briefing on Tuesday. Let's take a look.
Samantala, inaasahang dadalo via video conferencing ang Pangulo sa Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC sa November 12. Kasama ka sa kanyang schedule ang pagdalo sa opening ceremonies, ang pagdalo niya sa session ng Global Economic Outlook, presentation by the International Monetary Fund, and pagdalo sa session ng Recovering from COVID-19, Build Prosperity for All Our People and Future Generations, at ang pagdalo sa handover ng APEC chairing sa Thailand. Siyempre po, sasama rin po siya doon sa closing ceremonies.
APEC's 21 member economies are Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Canada, Chile, People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Japan, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Peru, the Philippines, the Russian Federation, Singapore, Chinese Taipei, Thailand, United States of America, Vietnam. New Zealand will be the first economy to host an entirely virtual host year of the APEC. In June, the New Zealand government announced it would make the move to a digital event to provide certainty to make the event happen. APEC New Zealand Deputy Secretary Andrea Smith said global disruption caused by COVID-19 and resulting border restrictions were a major factor in the decision to go virtual. The event is expected to bring together and enhance the rules for international trade and investment.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, nonprofit organizations have been doing their best in alleviating hardships within their respective communities. However, as the global crisis drags on, they themselves are facing their own challenges. Alfred Asenas of the EBC Hawaii Pacific reports on a global church's recent effort in assisting these nonprofits as well as those in need. Take a look.
Don't be scared to ask for help because there's people out there that want to help, you know, and you just have to believe in yourself.
Through these activities, aid to humanity, not only to give them the material things that they need, but above all, we are sharing as well our faith or the teachings of our Almighty God.
Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Maui, Boys and Girls Clubs of American Samoa, Housing Solutions Incorporated. These are but a handful of nonprofit organizations that have been helping families and individual citizens in the last year and a half of the COVID-19 pandemic.
A lot of our families here at Big Brothers Big Sisters are single-parent households or they're multi-generational, you know, they're being raised by grandparents and they just have a lot on their plate. They're working multiple jobs with, you know, there's multiple kids that are all taking care of each other.
But sadly, despite their noble cause, even they themselves have become overwhelmed and even strained of resources. Enter the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ, whose members in Hawaii and American Samoa recently came to their rescue. Eagle News accompanied church members and officials on Oahu to a nearby housing community to see their outreach activity firsthand.
Kahawiki Village, just outside Honolulu's International Airport, is the latest community to benefit from the charitable works of the Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ through her Aid to Humanity program.
This outreach means so much to us as staff, but especially our residents in our community because we love to offer them any help and assistance that we can. And so I just heard about this outreach today and I came out and I met everyone, and it was so amazing to see everyone work together and just go and interact with the community and get to know our residents, because again, we want everyone involved in our community, and it was so amazing to see everyone come together and work together for a similar goal.
Housing community resident Chelsea, who used to be homeless, thanked both the community and the Church of Christ for continuing to assist those in need and even encourage others to benefit from these acts of kindness.
I think that's awesome. You know, awesome that there are people out here that are still willing to do the acts of kindness, you know, because not so many people know about that, you know, because they only know of the struggle that they've been in for so long. To receive that kind of kindness and that there's people out there to help, you know, that's really awesome, you know.
As these nonprofits receive some boost in morale from the INC, they in turn pledge to continue their service to their communities regardless of the hardships that may come their way.
We're constantly adapting our COVID-19 protocols because we fall under national headquarters of Boys and Girls Club of America, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. We're one of 4,000 clubs worldwide, so we have to make the adaptations in accordance with our local laws.
And just like in prior outreach events, the Iglesia ni Cristo once again drew the attention of the local media.
The Church of Christ is giving back to the community in a big way through its Aid to Humanity program. Church volunteers this week distributed care packages to low-income families. The care packages went out to families on Oahu, along with the Outer Islands and American Samoa. Church leaders say the goal of the project is to promote goodwill, love, and appreciation for communities and make a positive and spiritual impact through acts of kindness.
Any support that we've are given, especially from the Church of Christ right now, is really appreciated.
And as we commemorate the birthday of our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manando, the main reason why we are having this activity is to help our fellow men to know God, to know the true God, and that is by sharing to them our faith.
Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Alfred Asenas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The Church of Christ, or Iglesia ni Cristo, has extended relief to OFWs in Bahrain. The Aid to Humanity event took place at the Philippine Embassy there. Laurelyn Kalimlim reports.
Once again, members of the Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, here in the Kingdom of Bahrain, in coordination with the Philippine Embassy and OWA office, are conducting Aid to Humanity as part of their advocacy of helping people in distress. The activity started with brief messages from the Consul General of the Philippine Embassy and the representative of the Church of Christ. Around 300 numbers of goodie bags consisting of grocery items and rice are being distributed at the Embassy Lounge.
Ngayon ay nagpapasalamat sa INC at sa kapatiran at pamumuno ng Iglesia ni Cristo para sa program na naglalayon makatulong sa ating mga kababayan, no, sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay ng care packages. So, yung simula ng mga nakaraang linggo, nakipag-ugnayan na po sila sa embahada para maisagawa ang programa ito at upang kami ay maging kabahagi ng programa. Kaya nagpapasalamat kami sa pamunuan at kapatiran ng INC sa pagkakataon ng ito na binigay nila para maging kabahagi kami sa programa upang makatulong po sa ating mga kabayan. Sa dami ng beneficiaries na target po para sa umagang ito, talagang kinakailangan sumunod pa rin tayo sa health and safety protocols. Kaya limited yung kumbaga yung bilang ng mga tao na pumupunta kada oras. So, medyo mahaba yung magiging programa kasi talagang kailangan i-space out natin yung mga pupunta para maka-observe po tayo ng proper safety and health protocols.
Due to COVID-19 pandemic, many of the Filipino workers have been affected and reaching out for help. Some have lost their jobs, some are forcibly sent back home, others are in the status of no work, no pay, or working yet not receiving any income.
Sa part naman po ng embassy, meron tayong mga nakalipas na mga programa sa pagtugon sa pandemya. Kasama po dyan yung Bayanihan para kay Kabayan program natin last year. Parang ganito rin po, nagpamigay tayo ng care packages at kasama din natin ang iba't ibang organisasyon ng Filipino community sa naging programang iyon. Maraming mga nag-donate at tumulong na magpamigay. Mayroon din na on their own na nagkaroon sila ng sarili nilang mga programa. On the part of Polo and OWA, meron din tayong naging ayuda para sa ating mga kabayan na nawalan ng trabaho or temporarily na layoff, ganyan. So, meron din pong ganon. And of course, patuloy yung repatriation program. Last year, nagkaroon tayo ng special chartered flight. Sa ngayon, ngayong taon, ang repatriation program natin ay through regular commercial flight. Ang embahada ay nakikipag-ugnayan sa Gulf Air para medyo mapababa natin ng konti ang presyo at isa pa para magkaroon tayo ng exemption doon sa seat allocation sa pagpasok sa Pilipinas. Pinatutupad naman yan ng IATF. So, yun ang isa sa mga na itutulong natin na programa para sa ating mga kababayan po.
Magandang umaga po. Unang-una ay maraming salamat sa Iglesia ni Cristo sa isinagawang pamimigay o worldwide aid to humanity dito sa bansang Bahrain. Siyempre po, pinabati po namin ang pamunuan ng Iglesia ni Cristo ng kaarawan sa ginagawang pamimigay ayuda sa ating mga kababayan. It usually coincides sa kanyang kaarawan, and this is worldwide. So maraming salamat kasi ito ay malaking tulong sa ating mga kababayan, lalo higit sa panahon. Sana po patuloy itong pamimigay ng tulong sa ating mga kababayan kasama ng embahada bansang Bahrain dito sa ating mga kababayan dito, lalo na yung walang trabaho. Napakalaking tulong dito. Gaya po ng sinabi ng ating constituent kanina, ito po ay parang ipapafeel natin sa kanila na meron silang pamilya dito sa bansang kahit malayo sila. Muli, maraming salamat po sa Iglesia ni Cristo. I hope hindi po itong huli dahil alam namin na kayang-kaya itong gawin ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Maraming salamat at mabuhay po ang Iglesia ni Cristo sa pagtulong sa ating mga kababayan.
One of the teachings of our Lord God taught to us by our Lord Jesus Christ is to show our love to our fellow men. The Church of Christ, through the leadership of our beloved executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, have this aid to humanity to show our true love and care for our fellow men, not only here in Bahrain, but all over the world, wherein we have local congregations of the church. But the most important of all that we share to our fellow men are the words of God written in the Bible that will help us to attain salvation on the day of judgment.
Ako si Roda Ridaha. Ang experience ko nung panahon ng pandemic, nawalan ako ng trabaho ng 5 buwan. Marami akong pinasukan ng trabaho, iba-iba. Minsan sa hotel, minsan maghuhugas ng plato, mag-aalaga ng pusa, minsan nagmamasahe. Kaya nakasurvive din ako. At saka sa tulong din ng mga kapatid, kay Lisa. Siya yung tumutulong sa akin tinatawagan niya ako para sa mga pag-ayuda ng mga panahon na yon. Malaking tulong to para sa akin at para sa mga kababayan din natin. At nagpapasalamat talaga ako ng lubos sa pangyayaring na kahit marami mga OFW, nabilang ako na kasama ako sa mga natulungan.
Nung nagkaumpisa po ng pandemic, mahirap po dahil nasa customer service po yung aking work. At syempre, naranasan po namin yung wala po kaming sahod ng isang buwan para po makita yung flow ng aming business. Then, pagkatapos naman po nun, ganun pa din. Minsan po, isang buong buwan, wala po kaming pasahod. At mahirap po talaga para sa amin dahil nandito din po yung aking pamilya at mga anak. Kami naman po ng asawa ko ay niraraos naman po namin hanggang sa meron kami nakakain na naiitabi. Ang ganitong mga pagtulong po na aming nakikita, isa din po ito sa mga nakakatulong sa amin sa pagraos po namin sa pang-araw-araw. Maraming salamat po sa mga ganitong mga tulong na natatanggap po namin sa iba't ibang sekta ng mga grupo dito sa Bahrain. Isa na rin po dito ang mga kapatiran po sa Iglesia ni Cristo. Maraming salamat po talaga.
Helping people, sharing, and giving the basic necessities of life is a good deed. Therefore, whenever it possibly could, don't wait, but act now. From the Kingdom of Bahrain, this is Lauren Kalimlim, Aid to Humanity, special coverage.
Now, through its humanitarian arm, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, the Iglesia ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, conducted an Aid to Humanity event in different parts of the world. Cristel Mapa, our EBC Bureau Chief, and the ASEAN Bureau from our Thailand Bureau covered the event. Take a look.
Members of Iglesia ni Cristo here in Thailand joined the simultaneous worldwide aid to humanity here in Buenguito Municipality, Patumtani, Thailand, in cooperation with Felix Y. Manalo Foundation. Patumtani Province is 35 kilometers north of Bangkok, Thailand's capital city. The Felix Y. Manalo Foundation office is located here, in which the items for donation were prepared days ahead of this event. This distance didn't hinder the members of Iglesia ni Cristo from different parts of Metro Bangkok to extend help, and even those from provinces outside Bangkok traveled early in the said venue. Health protocols are followed by attendees for the safety of the event. The recipients of the aid will receive non-perishable items such as sacks of rice, instant noodles, gallons of alcohol, canned goods, and toiletries. Members of Iglesia ni Cristo enthusiastically showed their unity from preparations such as repacking of goods to transporting in the venue, for which they believe this worldwide event could alleviate the burden of the pandemic to the recipients. Beneficiaries of this aid to humanity are members of the local community who are affected by the impact of COVID-19. The donations are formally accepted by Buenguito's Mayor Rang Nankawong, who expressed their gratitude in a briefing attended by ministers and evangelical workers in Thailand, led by the District Minister, Brother Willen D. Regalado.
มีความยินดีมากค่ะยินดีมากที่ทางฟิลิปปินส์นะคะได้นำของมาบริจาคนะคะสิ่งของมากมายอันนี้จะ ทำให้เอาเป็นประโยชน์กับผู้เดือดร้อนนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นผู้ยากไร้นะคะหรือว่าอาจจะมีผู้ป่วยน้ำท่วมอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็จะขาดแคลนอาหารเนาะเราก็จะนำไปมอบต่อนะคะการให้แบบนี้นะคะก็เป็นการแบ่งปันที่ดีมากๆเลยนะคะแล้วก็โลกเราก็จะได้น่าอยู่นะคะสำหรับมีผู้แบ่งปันนะคะประเทศเราโลกเราก็จะได้มีทั้งคือคนมีกินคนรวยเนี่ยก็จะนำอาหารต่างๆมาแบ่งปันให้กับคนที่ยากไร้คนไม่มีตังค์นะคะก็จะทำให้โลกเราสวยงามนะคะแล้วอยู่ร่วมกันได้อย่างมีความสุขนะคะขอบคุณค่ะค่ะ
The Church of Christ in every part of the world regularly holds activities like this in fulfillment of God's commandment to love our fellow men and help those who are in need. That will always be our purpose in this kind of events. As in every other activities of the church, brethren have prepared in advance so we can conduct the event in an efficient and orderly manner. A very important part of our preparation is to seek God's help and guidance through our devotional prayers held 1 week before the activity. As members of the Church of Christ, we are always joyful when we fulfill the commandments of our Almighty God. And we saw this in the faces of the brethren who participated in this event. They may be tired but full of happiness. To our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Di Manalo, we thank you so much for allowing us to conduct this activity in our district. We promise to always be united with you in all the activities of the church in honor of our Almighty God. Our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Di Manalo, we would like to greet you. Happy birthday, Paul! We love you so much, Paul!
What we've seen today is a proof that wherever members of Iglesia Ni Cristo are, they are united in any endeavor launched by the church administration through the dynamic leadership of Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Even though they also feel the impact of the pandemic, they join this worldwide activity with smiles in their faces and with high hopes of spreading positivity, love, and care unconditionally. From Thailand, Crystal Mapa, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Priscilla. What a way to end the program. Thank you very much, Eliana, for keeping me company as always. You have a good and safe weekend ahead of you.
Thank you, Alma. You too, stay safe. And that is the latest news in the ASEAN region. I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian from EBC Vietnam Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
And I'm Alma Angeles. We'll see you back next week. Same time, same place. We live in interesting times.